transported to a strange planet by a force from beyond the universe. The mightiest superheroes and supervillains of all have been gathered to fight the ultimate war. A surprise attack utterly destroyed the heroes' headquarters, and battered and battle-weary, most of the heroes have taken refuge in a tiny alien village, while Doom and his triumphant forces, in their own mighty citadel, plan the final, utter obliteration of their foes. Throughout all of this, the mighty Galactus has stood motionless atop a towering peak, keeping a solemn, mysterious vigil, as if waiting for something. Now his vigil has ended. Stan Lee presents Marvel Superheroes Secret Wars, the Battle of Four Armies. Mr. Fantastic says, I should have known. I should have suspected this. Captain America says, what is it, Reed? What does it mean? Iron Man says, look at the size of that thing. It takes up the whole sky. Hulk says, even though it's still millions of miles away. Human Torch says, it's Galactus's home. Iron Man says, it's big. Mr. Fantastic says, he must have summoned it from the far side of the universe. But why? It ain't for our health, son. Maybe it's a present for the Beyonder. Spider-Man says, it's as big as a whole solar system. Wow. Human Torch says, I don't know what you're saying, pretty lady, but I can tell you're afraid. If only I could explain to you what's going on. Not that we can do anything about it. Calm down. It'll be okay. I hope. If only I could talk to you. But you don't speak English, and I sure don't dig your lingo. I guess I'd start by thanking you for fixing up my busted ribs. But I think we could have a lot more than a doctor-patient relationship. Hey, where are you taking me? Your place. Look. It's not that I'd mind, but this is a heck of a time to duck into the parlor for some R&R. You're gonna fix us both a drink, is that it? Hey, you're one fast mover, lady. If that's Pepsi Cola in that bottle, make mine a double. I can use a good stiff belt about now. Vapors. You want me to inhale this stuff? Is that it? Okay, I trust you. Smells sweet but strong. Now that means shut up and breathe jerk. I can tell. Hey, this is weird. I feel like my mind is opening up like a book. Suddenly, the images in his mind's eye are hers to behold. She witnesses his memories of the recent past. She sees those who were brought to this world with him. Teammates. The Thing, Mr. Fantastic. Allies, Hawkeye, Iron Man, Spider-Man, Wasp, She-Hulk, Captain Marvel, Hulk, Captain America, Thor, some whose allegiance he holds in doubt. Colossus, Professor Xavier, Storm, Cyclops, Rogue, Nightcrawler, Wolverine, and one he knows as an enemy, Magneto. She sees those who were brought in a separate vessel, evil men possessing awesome power. Molecule Man, Dr. Octopus, Kong, Bulldozer, Ultron, the Lizard, Dr. Doom, Absorbing Man, Wrecker, Thunderball, Piledriver, Enchantress. Their leader, a man he had believed to be dead, the most fearsome enemy of all, Dr. Doom, and Galactus, the cosmic force given form as a living being, the Planet Eater, the majestic, dreadful entity who looms over the village, standing upon a mountaintop, whose home ship fills the sky. She witnesses the creation of the battle world constructed from bits and pieces stolen from many planets, including her own distant peaceful sphere. She understands that she and her people, like the citadels and weapons brought hither, are but raw material for war potential innocent victims. Hostages, perhaps, a resource for warring factions to exploit. She hears the mysterious author of this conflict address his captive combatants. The Beyonder says, I am from beyond. Slay your enemies, and all you desire shall be yours. Nothing you dream of is impossible for me to accomplish. She sees the first battles, and tastes with him the sweet memory of victory, as well as the despair of defeat. All too clearly she feels the terror of being buried alive under billions of tons of stone, but then, too, she knows the exultation of escape from that most horrific death, driven from their citadel. He and his friends found refuge here in her village. In him she relives their meeting. She feels the pain from his injuries, then feels at ease under her healing touch. And now she understands much. Human Torch says, that was neat. It was like touching souls. I saw in your mind too, and I like what I saw. I know your name now. I caught it. Saji says, John A. Human Torch kisses Saji, and Human Torch says, I love you too. Saji says, Saji. Human Torch says, yeah. Meanwhile, far away, within the fortress lair of Magneto, in a darkened chamber, the X-Man called Colossus wallows in an ocean of loneliness and worry. Colossus says, I wonder where she is now, what she's doing. I would give anything, just to know if my little Katia is safe and well. Do you miss me, Kitty, as much as I miss you? I love you so. All my big plans for us, for a few years from now, when you are old enough, where are they now? Thus, less than that, I am thinking. Something tells me I will die here in this war, billions of miles away from you, Kitty. And even if we win, who is to say that the Beyonder will send us home? Slay your enemies. The Beyonder said, and he would grant our wishes. I know what mine would be. Professor X says, Colossus, come at once. Colossus says, ah, yes, Professor X, at once. Seconds later, Magneto says, how quickly they respond, Xavier. You have trained them well. Professor X says, they are slower than I am content with. Magneto. Nightcrawler says, Ace Age, perhaps we would be quicker. Here, Professor, if the force of your telepathic summons did not bowl us over. Nonetheless, Nightcrawler reporting. Storm says, Storm is present. Wolverine says, so we're here already. What's the rush? Professor X says, that will become evident very soon. Wolverine, please retract the dome. Magneto. Colossus says, what is that? Professor X says, I have telepathically gleaned this information from Reed Richards' thoughts. What you see is the home of Galactus, a solar system-sized mechanical construct. He has apparently summoned it here for reasons not yet clear. Cyclops says, if I hadn't seen the Beyonder destroy an entire galaxy, I wouldn't believe this. But now, I guess it's getting easier to accept the impossible. Colossus says, no, it isn't, Cyclops. Rogue says, what are we all going to do? Magneto says, you, Rogue, and the others will go now and prepare a ship. We may have to move quickly against Galactus. If, as Xavier and I fear, this event foreshadows hostile action on his part. In the meantime, Xavier and I shall try a more subtle approach. You heard me. Go. Wolverine says, since when do you give us orders? Storm says, I am the leader of the X-Men. Cyclops says, that's right. Though with stakes this high, perhaps I should be, given my experience. Professor X says, listen to me, my X-Men. Until further notice, I shall give the orders, here and in the field. Now please do as Magnus said. There is no time for discussion. Cyclops says, all right, for the moment. Anyway, Professor X says, you must be careful, Magnus. Imperiousness for the sake of expediency is not wise. Magneto says, let's get on with it, Xavier. At that moment, thousands of miles away, at the massive fortress called Dumbase, the Molecule Man and Volcana were strolling down the garden, and Molecule Man says, yes, life was very difficult before the atomic accident, you know, when I gained absolute mastery of all molecules. People always made fun of me and hurt me. Did I tell you about the chicken feather incident in junior high school? Volcana says, yes. Oh, you poor boy. I wish I'd been there to help you. Absorbing Man, Piledriver, Bulldozer, Thunderball, and Wrecker were sitting nearby and talking to each other, and Absorbing Man says, yeah, after I busted a couple guards' heads, they gimme this sucker to slow me down. But I just turn around and use it on them. Thunderball says, mine's a wrecking ball. Piledriver says, hey, here comes a milksop and his cow. Romeo and Guernsey. Moo. Molecule Man says, TSK, let's get away from here, Marcia. Volcana says, why those scum? Molecule Man says, my therapist says not to react. Let's just go and be by ourselves. Volcana says, one more sound out, you jerks, and I'm going to make you very sorry. Piledriver says, Yazem is nerd. Evening, Mr. Nerd. Molecule Man says, what? Who said that? Who said that word? Piledriver says, well, what about it? Volcana says, I'll show you, what about it? Volcana smacks Piledriver in face, and Piledriver says, "Hey." Titania stands afar watching them from behind a tree, and Titania says, "I can't believe how Volcano mothers that little wimp. The mighty molecule man, huh? This might be interesting." Piledriver says, "You filthy fatbag. I'm going to." Molecule man says, "You won't do anything because I control all molecules, and I'm the most powerful person in the universe. So there." Piledriver says, "Is it so? Come on, guys. Let's rearrange his face molecules." "Guys." Absorbing man says, "Nice day, huh?" Bulldozer says, "Little cloudy." Piledriver says, "Hey, I can't move." Molecule man says, "And all I did was compress the molecules of your suit into an ultra-hard metal-like substance. And now you're a pushover. Take that, smarty." Volcano says, "Good work." Owen, "That's it. Eat some more mud." Piledriver. Molecule man says, "Do any of you have anything to say?" Wrecker says, "A nope." Molecule man says, "That's no. Sir, Mr. Molecule Man." Wrecker says, "No. Sir, Mr. Molecule Man. Sir." Bulldozer says, "Yeah. No problem." Absorbing man says, "You're okay by me, pal." Molecule man says, "Come on, Marcia. I'll make us a nice flying chariot out of solidified air molecules, and we'll go off someplace away from them." Titania says, "Those stupid cowards. Why, I would have ripped that little twerp in half before he could." "Hey, what's that?" Absorbing man says, "Come on, rip that suit open. He can't breathe." Wrecker says, "I'm trying. Even with my crowbar, it's not easy. And I can rip armor plate apart like paper." Titania says, Look up there." Bulldozer says, "Huh?" Absorbing man says, "Now what? I don't even want to know what it is." Wrecker says, "Yeah, I just hope it's on our side." Thunderball says, "Where's Doom? He'll know what that thing is. It might even be his doing." And elsewhere in the huge complex, Dr. Doom says, "At last, Galactus's home has arrived here, as I knew it would, as his plans become clear to me. So do my own plans crystallize? Timing will be critical. Attention, servitors of doom. Prepare yourselves for battle. From this instant on, you are all on red alert. You shall be ready to strike at a moment's notice. Fail me, and you shall be utterly destroyed." Enchantress says, "Doom, I would have a word with you." Dr. Doom says, "My orders were clear. Enchantress, you would do well to obey immediately." Enchantress says, "You cannot deceive me. Doom, I sense the odds against us, and I am afraid. Look at me, Victor Von Doom. I am a goddess. Beautiful, powerful, immortal. What have I to gain here? I want no part of this war. Some barrier prevents me from simply fleeing this world. I've tried. Perhaps, though, if you and I combined our talents, we could escape. Together, you are such a clever mortal. How would you like the love of a goddess for the rest of your life?" Dr. Doom says, "I would not." Enchantress says, "If my beauty holds no charm for you, then let us consider your own. I could repair the scars you hide behind that iron mask." Dr. Doom says, "My face? You can restore my face." Enchantress says, "Easily." Enchantress reaches for Doom's mask, and Dr. Doom says, "No. I know enough about sorcery to realize the hidden price of such a feat. Save your tricks, Enchantress. You will need them, and every ounce of power you possess, in the coming battle." Enchantress says, "Doom, please. I beg thee. I don't want to die. You cannot imagine what it is for an immortal to face total ultimate death." Dr. Doom says, "Are you finished?" Enchantress says, "You shall regret this." Dr. Doom says, "You have your orders, Enchantress. Begone." Enchantress says, "Very well, madman, it is done." Dr. Doom says, "Is it madness, my dear Enchantress, which drives a man of my genius to strive for impossible prize? Or is it the striving for that which is ever just out of reach which prevents madness from overtaking me? I do not fear death." Meanwhile, in Magneto's lair, Magneto says, "Why is it taking so long, Xavier?" Professor X says, even unawares, his natural mental defenses are strong beyond imagining. All we can do is keep probing, pressing, entreating More energy, Magnus. More. Open the barriers within your consciousness. Let me tap the deepest pools of your latent mental powers. If we can contact Galactus mind to mind, we may learn his plans, and perhaps reason with him. At that moment, Human Torch says, seems plain as day to me. He's going to eat this planet right out from under us. The Thing says, is it right, Reed? Mr. Fantastic says, I'm not certain, but I'd like to try to find out. Cap, I once saved Galactus's life. I alone have a chance of communicating with him. Captain America says, it's against my better judgment, Reed. We can't afford to lose you. I guess what I'm saying is, be careful. Shortly, Mr. Fantastic says, Galactus. He's completely oblivious to me, but I must reach him. Listen to me. I think I know what you're planning, and it is madness. It will guarantee your death as surely as ours. You know this. But back at Magneto's fortress, Professor X says, it is no use. We're like gnats to Galactus. Even at rest, his mental defenses are far too much for us. Magneto says, no. Magneto is no insect. He must acknowledge us. If we must, we'll batter our way through. Professor X says, Magnus, no. You're causing a surge. Mr. Fantastic says, there's another way, Galactus. You are our only hope. With you we may be able to approach the Beyonder, and perhaps put an end to this insanity. What's this? He glanced away. But why? Clawing at the fringes of consciousness, something garners, but a flickering of Galactus's awareness, and by sheer reflex, a massive wave of psionic feedback inundates the source of the disturbance with devastating effect, and then, Mr. Fantastic says, he noticed me, but he's forcing me back with a telekinetic burst. No, don't. Please, hear me out. Captain America says, Reed. What happened? Mr. Fantastic says, whatever disturbed Galactus aroused him sufficiently to make him aware of us as well. Spider-Man says, oh, well, you tried, Reed, but the big guy just ain't got no cuth. Captain America says, if you're okay, then no harm done. Mr. Fantastic says, you don't understand. We're in incredible danger now. Galactus is pointedly aware that potential pests are near at hand. Hawkeye says, so? He gonna sick his cat on us or something. Exactly. A giant robot lands in front of the heroes from the home of Galactus, and Spider-Man says, holy tamale, what the heck is that? Hulk says, the cat? Obviously. Some construct for dealing with vermin. The Thing says, well, don't just stand there waiting for it to hit you. Hulk. The giant robot punches the Hulk, and the Hulk went flying, and the Thing says, sheesh, he must be a lover, 'cause he sure ain't a fighter. Hawkeye says, I think we're in trouble. Meanwhile, using complex modules beamed down from his mighty home ship, Galactus assembles a massive machine. Undisturbed. Below, the giant robot flicks Iron Man and the Thing from one hand and punches down the Hulk, smashing him to ground, while Human Torch keeps on blasting him, and Human Torch says, get back. Give me some room to use my Nova Intensity Flame. That'll stop him. The Thing says, calls a cab, Junior, and drop us a postcard when you're done. Ow! Frying him. The giant robot holds She-Hulk in its fist, tightening it, crushing her. She-Hulk says, and fires a goop-like substance from its mouth on Thor, Hawkeye, and Captain Marvel, and Spider-Man says, my spider sense is going bonkers. Guys, look out. Oh, geez, too late. It's firing some kind of goop that's paralyzing them. Human Torch says, Thor's down, with his hammer out of the fight. Captain America says, don't think about it. Do exactly as I told you. Our attack must be perfectly coordinated. That thing's gun must be silenced at any cost. The Thing says, boy, I love that kind of talk. Captain America throws his shield and hits the giant robot's eye. The giant robot stumbles back, and Human Torch says, good shot, Cap. Captain America says, so it does have weak points. Okay, hit him. I'm counting on you. The Thing grabs a hold of the giant robot's hands, and the Thing says, something about that guy, you just can't let him down. Got him, Cap. Good thing they ain't never heard of wrestling on planet Remulac. If this guy knew the counter move for this hold, I'd be in the soup. Hurry up, kid. Even with leverage, I can't hold him long. Human Torch says, I hear you, armpit breath. Let's hope something inside is meltable. Human Torch blasts with his full Nova intensity flame into the giant robot's mouth. The robot's chest bursts open with blasts and falls on the ground, and the thing says, well, looky there. He must feel like he ate too many sardine sandwiches. Human Torch says, I bet that never happened to one of the Big G's toys before. Captain America says, everyone's all right? Good. Iron Man says, I wish I'd gotten some licks in. Thor says, I suspect our chances for glory shall abound soon, Iron Man. Spider-Man says, maybe real soon. My spider sense is buzzing again. There's danger near. Hawkeye says, look, a blast, it's Captain America. The Thing and Hawkeye, Spider-Man manages to dodge it. Doom's army had attacked the heroes, and Captain America says, Doom's men. Dr. Octopus says, they're battered and exhausted. Easy pickings. Bulldozer says, yeah? If that mountain we dropped on them last time didn't kill, and no way they're easy pickings ever. Absorbing Man says, this time we kill him for sure. Not far away. Dr. Doom says, it wasn't surprising to discover that Captain America, Reed Richards, and their lackeys had somehow survived their apparent death at the end of our last encounter. And as it happens, their presence here is extremely convenient. It eliminated the need to send my forces in a direct assault on Galactus, during which they surely would have been annihilated. A savage battle against the heroes in Galactus's immediate vicinity will serve just as well if it succeeds in disturbing him and drawing his attention. A split second is all I need. Dr. Octopus says, cut down that Star-Spangled Fool first. With him dead, the rest will be easy pickings. Captain America says, we're in trouble. We're tired, battered. Fall back. Give ground but return fire. Keep slugging. Slow. Am down once we blunt the initial thrust on my order. Dig in and hold. But as Ultron's energy rays intersects Volcana's awesome thermal blasts, it blasted the heroes, splattering them on the ground, and Volcana says, whoa, looks like we're a devastating combination ulti. Absorbing Man says, that soften him up, let's finish him. Captain America says, stay together, keep fighting. We're not done yet. Captain Marvel, we're with you to the last breath, Cap. The Doom's army was winning, then suddenly all the X-Men, including Magneto, came to help, and Nightcrawler pulls down Enchantress on the ground by pulling her hairs, and Cyclops fires his laser beams on Molecule Man and Volcana. But Molecule Man just in time builds a wall of rocks, shielding him and Volcana from Cyclops. On the other hand, Wolverine kicking Ultron on the face, and Professor X says, X-Men attack. Press them hard. Their power exceeds our own. We must strike as one. Rogue, you are lagging behind. Titania is closing on you, cutting you off from the rest. Rogue, beware. Rogue says, Professor, y'all shouldn't worry about me so. Titania throws one of the villagers' huts straight upwards towards Rogue. Rogue, in a single punch, turns that hut to pieces. On the other hand, Colossus single-handedly beaten Wrecker to ground, holds Piledriver by the neck with one hand, and with the other, he holds Dr. Octopus from his tentacle and uses him to beat Bulldozer and Thunderball, and Colossus says, I will smash all of you. You are what keeps me from Mycodia. Wrecker says, help. Help me. Thunderball says, this one's crazy. He's a berserker. Storm says, the elements marshal their infinite might at my beckoning. Power seethes in the roiling clouds. Now, at my command strike. She is Storm, mutant mistress of the elements, and all who behold her handiwork are awed, all save Thor, the god of thunder and Galactus. But even the mighty Planet Eater cannot utterly ignore the raging gale, and in the moment that he ponders ITS' possible significance, concluding that to him it has none, Doom reacts. Dr. Doom says, now. At tachyon speed, Doom's jump ship spans 22 million miles in one heartbeat passing, like a wisp of subspatial ether, through the world ship's hull. Wrecker jammed his crowbar in Colossus' chest, and Wrecker says, got him. Now, I'll kill him before he kills us. Cyclops says, Colossus, get away from him. Cyclops blasting away Wrecker Dr. Octopus, Thunderball, Pile Driver with a powerful optic blast, and as the battered servants of Doom struggle to their feet, Enchantress says, they fight as though possessed. While we are together and I still have strength now, let us be gone before we are overwhelmed. This day is theirs. Titania says, no, let me at them again. Absorbing Man says, shut Titania. Professor X says, the enemy has fled. To the ship at once. Storm says, as soon as we get Colossus Professor. Professor X says, no, he must not be moved. To the ship, now. Cyclops says, move it, Wolverine. Nightcrawler says, I do not like this. Cyclops, how could we just leave him? Cyclops says, get inside Nightcrawler. The professor will explain. Wolverine says, it better be good Cyclops. Nightcrawler says, for once I'm with you, Wolverine. Magneto says, why this foolish mewling? Colossus was obviously gravely injured. He is of no further use to us. We cannot afford to be encumbered by casualties. Wolverine says, the X-Men stick together. Buckethead, and I got no further use for scum like you, even if you did magnetically shield us all when Galactus smashed your fort. Magneto says, this is War Cretin. Professor X says, silence. Colossus's injuries were such that to move him would kill him. There is a healer in that village who may be able to save his life, and I believe that Captain America and company can be trusted to do him no harm. As an independent ally of Captain America's group, we were extremely effective. I believe we should continue playing a role as a third force. To do so, we must keep our distance, even if it means leaving Colossus behind temporarily. Understood? And back at the village, Saji says, Johnny. Human Torch says, I bet you're saying you were worried, Saji. Me too, babe. Iron Man holds Colossus in his arms, and Iron Man says, hey, Hotshot, we got a badly wounded man here. Can you get your medic girlfriend to take a look? Human Torch says, I'll try. But who knows if she can help a mutant? I mean, they're not exactly normal humans. He's a whole different species. Iron Man says, let me get this straight. A guy who can burst into flames has doubts that this broad from planet Mongo can help this mutant dude? Thank God he ain't black, huh? Human Torch says, knock it off. Shellhead, you know what I meant. Colossus says, what are you doing? Leave me alone. Human Torch says, hey, chill out, Jack. She's trying to help. Colossus says, I want no help. Stay away. Iron Man says, now you done gone and lost your place in line. You happy? Human Torch says he's nuts. Maybe they all are. Spider-Man says, oh wow, that feels so good. Human Torch says, nice work, lady. You are terrific. Spider-Man says, I'll say, that healing touch of hers is better than a week in intensive care. Iron Man says, and she's gorgeous too. Not a bad package. Colossus says, she is very beautiful, and very much in love, it seems, with a Human Torch. Why does that trouble me? And why can I not picture Kitty in my mind now? Saji. Her name is Saji. Stop looking at him that way. Oh. Iron Man says, hold on, man. Hold on. Human Torch says, yeah, I know. Duty calls. Catch you later, doll. Colossus says, oh, that feels good. Thank you. Nearby, Mr. Fantastic says, it takes Galactus some time to complete the assembly cap. There's no telling exactly how long, though. Captain America says, and once it's together, Mr. Fantastic says, I presume he plans to consume this entire planet, probably destroying us in the process. Captain America says, and thereby winning the Beyonders game. Mr. Fantastic says, I doubt that it's that simple. Galactus is calculating planning something. I feel it. Captain America says, but what? And what is Doom up to? Why wasn't he with his little army when they attacked? At that moment, inside the home of Galactus, the man of whom Captain America speaks stands awestruck, transfixed. His senses cannot adequately transmit to his brain the indescribable grandeur they perceive, nor can even his magnificent mind fully grasp the unimaginable concepts to which his surroundings attest. Minutes pass before at last he speaks. Dr. Doom says, I entered this place as sub-existent hyperenergy in a vessel whose technology is undreamed by my kind, whose simple controls even I could barely fathom. And now, I see that the unbelievable vehicle which brought me hither is but a toy, and I am but a virus on this greatest of worlds I now tread. Other men would simply blind themselves, or fall to their knees in worship. Or perhaps, if they were less learned than I, they would lack the wit to react at all. But I, Victor Von Doom, shall find an answer here. No, I shall find a way for the virus to grow, to become strong, to overwhelm this mighty pulsing world-ship, and then Galactus himself, and then the Beyonder, and then answers are of no concern, for they shall simply be my will. Hold! What's this?